Are legal issues getting in the way of caring for yourself or someone that you love with mental illness? Then stick around because in this episode of the Mental Health Toolbox, we're talking all about mental health laws that you should know with author and attorney at law, Baron Miller. So let's go. Hello, Thrivers, and welcome back to the Mental Health Toolbox. If you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Patrick Martin, and I am on a mission to help 1 million people improve their quality of life with actionable tips on personal development. So let's do it. All right. Hi, Baron. Thank you so much for making time today to be on the Mental Health Toolbox video podcast. Appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Well, I assure you, it's my pleasure, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you. So you are not just an attorney at law for 47 years, I believe, something like that, right?
1973 is
Wow.
when it all started, yes.
Fantastic. I'm sure you're a wealth of information. But you recently published a book, right?
I did.
Laws We Should Know.
It's actually, the title of it is Laws We Need to Know.
Mm-hmm.
Should I put it up on the screen?
Yes, please.
We
Oh,
need to-
fantastic.
Yeah. So this is
Nice.
what it looks like, and there's a subheading on it, which may or
Mm-hmm.
may not be readable, but it is understanding laws and
Program.
programs for persons with mental illness.
Fantastic. What an awesome subject. The reason I asked you on today is because I think that is definitely one of those more ambiguous areas that even people such as myself who have been in mental health as a practitioner for over a decade really don't know a whole lot about in terms of how to advise families. And that's pretty much your niche right now, right? Is helping families with families of loved ones with disabilities kind of navigate this legal system and the pitfalls and challenges that come with it.
That's a good way to describe it. It is my niche and has become my niche, and that is what I am doing mostly in my law practice these days, although not exclusively, but it does take up most of my time, and something I kind of morphed into. Probably what people these days would call organically,
Mm-hmm.
that it was natural because of my own situation.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to kind of get into the work that we do or the work we become known for is because of our passions. Um, you say because of your personal experience. Did you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. I have a 46-year-old daughter who suffers from schizophrenia. And she was diagnosed and actually had her first full psychotic break in 1990. And at that point, I started to learn about laws and rules and programs related to those who suffer from mental illness. And I became somewhat of an involuntary expert, as so many parents do, and I was learning things that I thought I might be able to help other people with, and as I started to get involved with NAMI groups and such, I started meeting other parents and friends and people with mental illness and high functioning people with mental illness. And I soon became a go-to person, so to speak, a resource for others in similar situations. And I these days I it's rare that a day will go by that I don't get a call from somebody saying I got your name from somewhere, and I just have this question, and I'm wondering what I should do. and of course I'm always happy to talk to people and give them information, and if they become clients, that's great too. But I am available to answer questions, and there's no obligation by anyone to ask who wants to ask a question and get information. But at some point, about 5 years ago, I think I thought, well, wouldn't it be helpful if I were to write down what I know in some kind of logical format and have it exist as a written resource for people. And so I spent about 5 years writing and rewriting and editing, and came up with this book that came out last year, and I believe it does that, and it even does it for me. There are things where I will things I'm not sure of. I'll refer to the book and see. Oh yeah, now I remember. That's the rule on that.
How fantastic to have a concentrated guide. I think that's one of the wonderful things about books in general is you're taking somebody's lifelong experience, right, expertise, and boiling it down into something digestible and quick and referenceable. And I mean, a lot of people, they'll just throw together an ebook or frequently asked questions. You took your time, right, your precious time, and you put together this magnificent compilation of your experience and a guidebook around these issues. I'm wondering, were there there must have been some kind of repetition around the questions that you're running into that you felt, this is a need. This is a real need because you're probably hearing the same questions over and over again.
Oh, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there are questions that everybody has, regardless of their situation, and they, of course, are hopefully they're covered in the book, and then there are more specific things. And for example, I mean, there's a chapter in the book on criminal procedure because I mean, not infrequently, people who have mental health issues find themselves charged with a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, and this can be a real horror because it's, well, for various reasons, but it can be a big confusing situation for the person charged with the crime and for those who want to help him or her, and may or may not be allowed to help him or her. But I thought it would be a good idea to lay out the criminal procedure process from start to finish, and so people would know what to expect, and would understand some of the process that's going on while it's going on. So not everybody's, hopefully, not everybody is going to be facing criminal charges, and hopefully most people won't. But for those who do, it's there. So.
How fantastic. I mean, I have a background in some forensic social work and the mental health system. I toured Patton Hospital here in California, for those who have mental deficits who commit crimes, obviously weren't able to stand trial and that kind of thing. We have clients coming to, I have clients come to me after they get out of Patton, on parole and that kind of thing, and through, transitioning, off parole and referred to mental health and AB 109 and that whole world, of forensic mental health it's it's fascinating for those on the outside, but for those who are being directly affected by it, who are in the mix of it, the families, it must be terrifying. And anytime there's an unknown factor, it's scary, right? But especially when your loved one's on the line, I can imagine.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I think you've explained it very well. That's the situation. There's a lot
What
of
a beacon of light
anxiety.
that would be for someone, who doesn't know what to expect, or at least understand, okay, this is demystified a little bit, pull back the curtain and say, this is kind of what you're looking at, so that you don't get caught off guard or cold clock, deer in the headlights kind of thing, the legal
right,
system.
right.
Yeah. Um, what would you say are kind of the most common challenges that you see families face, or that maybe the heartaches you try and prevent for them in the work that you do?
Well, um, the thing that I do most of is estate planning for families
Mm-hmm.
who have a member, a family member with severe mental illness. And I mean, I think one of the great fears that we have is what's going to happen after we're gone. Because, I mean, to take my own situation, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I have a 46-year-old daughter. She has some support, and that's good. Part of that support is me, and I am really her case manager.
Mm-hmm.
If,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just her parent. I'm watching out for her, and so the big concern is, well, what's going to happen after I'm gone, and how am I going to be able to provide for my child, and who's going to do what I'm doing, and of course the unspoken words are nobody can do what I'm doing.
Right.
Although the fact is there are others who can do what we're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
and without the emotions involved, they might be better at it than
Allegedly,
we
yeah.
are. But that is what I am predominantly doing is providing mechanisms for the care of family members after somebody's death, and it's very important, and it's very rewarding for me, and I believe a big relief for my clients. So
Yeah, and it sounds like a real meaningful work for you.
yeah, it's meaningful work for me for
Because
sure. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, you have lived this experience. And I think describing yourself as not just a father, but also a case manager of a loved one, I think is very much the case, and I see that a lot on this end, as a counselor, when I'm talking to families, you can feel the overwhelm oftentimes. And also, like you said, sometimes not wanting to let go, because who's going to take care of my child like me? Who's going to be as committed? And I think that's a hard thing to ask for help to begin with for your loved ones, and
Yeah.
also to plan, because I have numerous clients who are have aging parents, right, who are on social security or disability, and they don't know what's going to happen, and a lot of their anxiety is wrapped up in that, even with schizophrenia. They're able to oftentimes still have the capacity to worry about the future, and worry
Sure.
about their own well-being, and also not just the grief and loss that we all go through with aging parents, loved ones, but what happens after. Am I going to be homeless, and you know et cetera, especially if they have a payee, right? Especially if they're conserved, have a public guardian, someone else managing their finances and making their decisions for them. That could be very scary. Yeah.
Uh, I had a situation with a client who wanted to uh, he wanted to help somebody by letting this person live in his home. My client's quite old, and has a middle-aged son with schizophrenia, and so I was trying to explain the realities to my client of letting somebody live in your home, and if you decide you don't want them to live there anymore, it's not so easy as just possibly just asking them to leave. That they become a tenant and they have certain rights, and you have certain obligations, and I was talking to the son and to my client, and then the son said to him, and he really he wasn't he heard what I was saying, but I don't think he was necessarily agreeable,
Hmm.
and I wasn't sure really what was going to happen. And then the son said to his father that he needed to think about the son. He needed to think
Hmm.
about him, the son, and what was going to happen when the father died, and how was this going to affect the son, that it was going to possibly remove resources, assets that the son would need to
Hmm.
live the rest of his life, because the son needed help, a high functioning person with mental illness, but nonetheless somebody who would will need help, and that, I believe, is what impressed the father enough not to follow through with his
Hmm.
plans to let somebody live with him. Let me just say that I'm not necessarily opposed to people helping others and letting them live with them, but in this situation where my client is in his mid 90s and has does have some degree of wealth, and didn't really know the person very well who was going
Hmm.
to be moving in with him, it looked a little risky, or actually quite risky. So, but the son understood that he would need the father's help after the father was gone. He would need access to the
Hmm.
father's resources, and I believe he impressed that sufficiently on his father. So,
Yeah, absolutely. We all know that having a will is important, and we all know that planning for what happens after we're gone for our children is important. Things as simple and straightforward as life insurance to things as complex as estate planning and trusts. And I think I'm sure in your position, yeah, you oftentimes have to be the one to kind of, raise the flag and be like, you sure you want to do this? This is maybe not in your best interest, because oftentimes people, just want to be helpful,
right,
right?
right.
Or don't see a conflict or how that puts them at risk, I'm sure. And so, and with your experience, you're in a position where you can really help kind of shine a light on those risk factors as a means to protect not just your client, but your client's loved ones.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's part of my job is uh, telling people what's risky about what they're doing, and they may not appreciate that I'm not encouraging them,
Right.
but usually I'm not discouraging them. I'm just letting them know what the potential risks are. In
Hmm.
the situation I was describing, I was affirmatively discouraging my client from doing what he wanted to do, but I believe it was his son's argument that took the day.
Hmm. Yeah,
So, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm curious. I know you say you started this book 5 years ago, but what was a turning point for you where you because you've traditionally practiced civil, right? Civil law. At what point did you take a unique interest in estate planning, especially estate planning for this specialized population?
Right. Well, okay. So I have been practicing law continuously since 1973, and my daughter did become diagnosed, and I realized what was going on in 1990. Before 1990, the focus of my practice was general civil law, which included quite a bit of litigation. I did do some estate planning, some probate and trust administration, but for the most part, it was just a general civil practice, and it didn't have that focus. And I actually knew very little about estate planning for families of persons with disabilities. I knew a little bit, but I knew enough to probably refer my client to, or my would-be client, to someone else who knew more. And but then, as I said earlier, I started to learn quite a bit after my daughter was diagnosed, and then I started meeting people who were in similar situations, and so it just became a natural transition, and not even a transition. I mean, just uh, doing more of one type of law than
Hmm.
others, and now it's just become a predominant part of my practice, and it is really enjoyable for me. I have to say that my I became a lawyer probably for a variety of reasons, and I mean one of which my father was a lawyer, and I always admired and respected him, and I wanted to be like him. And so, he was left-handed. I always wanted to be left-handed. I couldn't be left-handed, but I could be a lawyer. So I don't know. So, but that was one big influence and one big reason why I went into law. I used to visit him at his office. I'd see what he did. I liked the way he interacted with people and the way people interacted with him, and how he was able to help people, and you could see visibly how people's anxiety would be reduced when they talked to him, and it was just very nice. And I thought, well, maybe I could do this also, and and then I had this thing, and still do, about fairness. I still have this idea that the world should be a just place, and justice should prevail. And so I thought, well, law is something I can go into, that where I can fight for justice, and so I mean, that was another reason, and I'm sure there are other reasons. Some are probably economic, but there those are the ones that stand out for me. And so the fighting for justice is, well, here's something that I can do where I'm not just fighting for justice. I'm actually creating it. It's actually working. I'm not Don Quixote. I'm not bringing a lawsuit that I don't have a chance of winning just to make
Hmm.
a statement,
Hmm.
or to educate some people along the way. I am actually helping people right now, and in the future, by what I'm doing. So it's a pretty good feeling for me, and something that I am proud of,
Wow.
and makes me feel good about myself.
That is so important too, to do something that you believe in. That's
Right.
part of your passion and your belief system, your values, and it's in line, right, with your moral compass. And it's fantastic that you found something where you can really sink your teeth into that way and feel good at the end of the day that you are making a difference, right? Because even for our own mental health, regardless of what walk of life we're in, I think everyone needs to have a sense of purpose, right?
Right. We need a sense of purpose, and we need to feel good about ourselves and what we're doing. So I think I have found my niche, as
Yes.
you appropriately called it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Hierarchy of needs, right? Self-actualization, to be altruistic, to reach a place where we can give back, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Um, so you've done a lot, obviously, since 1973. Practiced civil and everything that comes with it, estates, probate, litigation. Where do you see your work taking you next? I mean, you just wrote a book. It's out there. What would you like to see happen in the next 5 years?
Well, I would like to see every high functioning person with mental illness, and every family member and person who assists persons with mental illness have a copy of this book. And that would that to me, I think, would be wonderful, because everyone needs it. And so I'm talking about family members. I'm talking about psychologists and social workers and lawyers and psychiatrists and nurses
Well, I know I'm
and
getting a copy.
yeah. Well,
Most definitely.
okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's what I'd like to see.
yeah.
That'd be good.
People empowered, people educated, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. What would you say are some golden nuggets you would like anyone listening to this or watching this? What would you have them take away? What would be if they had to take one or two, three things from this conversation? What would you have them walk away with?
Uh, well, to know that they're as dismal as things might appear at any time, and things can appear dismal daily
Mm-hmm.
for people in our situations. For as dismal as they appear, there is hope, there is light, there is a better future. There, there are ways to assist your loved ones or the persons you're caring for, and lighten your burden and lighten their burden. Um, I would like people to know it's not just a dead end street. I mean, look, if in my situation, I'll speak for myself. I have a child who, when she was a child, when she was an infant, and up until maybe age 13, she was bright and cheerful and lovely. And she was witty and charming, and I thought about her future quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I was I thought she had a great future. Uh, well, as it turned out, she didn't have a great future. She had a future with a chronic disabling illness. She has what I call a bad case of schizophrenia, and so I I mean, when she was first diagnosed, there was some time where it was quite despairing,
Mm-hmm.
and even now, I can lapse into it without too much difficulty. But
Gotcha.
the reality is that things change, and our plans don't always come. Our initial plans don't always come to fruition, and that's part of being
Human. Yeah.
yeah, part of being a human being is you have to adjust and you have to be flexible and you have to sometimes make the best out of bad situations and maybe turn them into not bad situations and turn them into tolerable situations. And so I think that's probably what I would like people to recognize and just know that there are people who will help them, and there is information out there, and I would like them to get a copy of my book, and they can. I probably should say that this book is available to everybody, so it's for sale. It's for sale on my website. It's also for sale at online bookstores. It can be purchased in digital form or print form from bookstores or booksellers. From me, it can only be purchased in print form. And I do have special pricing available for those who need it. And that special pricing goes down to zero for those who need it. So I definitely want everybody who would benefit from this book to have a copy of this book, and they can get it. It's gettable.
That's
So,
fantastic. And reducing the barriers, the access to information. I can definitely know this is a passion project of yours, and your words of wisdom can only come from someone who has lived it. And so I know it comes at no small cost, this book for you. And so I appreciate it. I will definitely be putting that up in the show notes wherever you're watching or listening to this, whether it's YouTube, the MHD podcast, the blog, baronmillerlaw.com, wherever you happen to be checking out this book, it'll be available, and put that in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you, Baron, so much for making time today. I know this is going to change lives. There are going to be people who find this book because you took the time out today, and it's going to educate them and help them calm their fears about the future. And that is priceless. So thank you so much, Baron, for your dedication, the time and energy you took to put into this over 5 years. And I'm sure it will be a blessing to many.
Oh, thank you, Patrick, and thank you for the opportunity to come on your show.
Yeah,
yeah.
of course, my pleasure. Anytime. I'd love to do a check-in with you down the road.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Well, it's a pleasure.
All right.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.